Before pizza became comfort food, it was desperation. Before it arrived in cardboard boxes and glowing delivery apps, it was eaten standing on streets, folded in half, burned at the edges. Before it became global, endlessly customizable, and photographed millions of times a day, it was ignored, mocked, and dismissed as food for people who had no other options. And here is the part most people never stop to consider. Pizza was never meant to last. It was not created to refresh. It was not designed to represent a nation. It was not invented to build culture, tradition, or pride. Pizza was an accident of hunger, a solution made by people with limited money, limited time, and almost no social power. Yet somehow, against class systems, culinary hierarchies, and centuries of food tradition, that simple idea refused to disappear. Instead, it survived, and over time, it quietly reshaped how the world eats, shares, markets, and emotionally connects with food. This is not a story about cheese and dough. This is the story of how necessity becomes tradition, tradition becomes identity, and identity becomes global culture. To understand pizza, you have to step far away from modern kitchens and modern thinking. You have to enter a world where food was not entertainment. It was survival. Long before the word pizza existed, humans were already baking flatbread. Grain was crushed, mixed with water, and placed near fire. That single technique fed civilizations. Ancient Egyptians baked round breads on hot stones more than 4,000 years ago. Ancient Greeks topped flatbreads with olive oil, herbs, onions, and cheese. Persian soldiers baked bread on their shields during military campaigns, topping it with dates or cheese because that was all they could carry. This was not cuisine. It was not creativity. It was fuel. The Romans refined the idea further. They baked flatbreads in ovens, brushed them with oil, and sometimes added toppings. Often, bread was used as a plate. Food was placed on top, then eaten afterward. Bread was not just food. Bread was structure. Still, no one called this pizza. It was ordinary, invisible, uncelebrated, and that invisibility mattered because foods protected by elites stay frozen in tradition. Foods eaten by the poor are allowed to change. For centuries, flatbread remained background food. No recipes, no rules, no prestige. Then history shifted. When tomatoes arrived in Europe from the Americas in the 16th century, they were feared. Europeans believed they were poisonous. The wealthy avoided them completely. But the poor did not have the luxury of fear. By the 18th century, Naples had become one of the most overcrowded cities in Europe. Jobs were unstable. Housing was cramped, hunger was constant. People needed food that was cheap, fast, and filling. They did not need beauty. They needed calories. Street vendors stepped in. They baked flatbread in wood-fired ovens and topped it with whatever was affordable and available. Garlic, oil, anchovies, and eventually, tomatoes. Tomatoes changed everything. They were cheap. They added moisture to dry bread. They brought acidity, color, and depth. They turned survival food into something craveable. This was not innovation, it was adaptation. Pizza was eaten with hands because cutlery cost money. It was folded because plates were unnecessary. It was sold by the slice because full meals were unrealistic. Pizza did not emerge from creativity, it emerged from pressure. By the late 1700s and early 1800s, pizza had become everyday food in Naples. Still ignored by elites, still absent from cookbooks, still dismissed as street food, and that dismissal mattered. Because food that is ignored is free, free to evolve, free to adapt, free to survive. Then came a moment that did not invent pizza, but changed how it was perceived. In 1889, during a royal visit, a pizza topped with tomato, mozzarella, and basil was served to Queen Margherita of Savoy. Red, white, green, the colors of Italy. Whether the story was later romanticized or simplified does not really matter. What matters is what followed. Pizza moved from poor people's fuel to a national symbol. Slowly, reluctantly, but permanently. Still, pizza remained local. It was fragile. Its future was uncertain. Pizza's real transformation would not happen in Italy. It would happen through migration. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, millions of Italians left their homeland in search of survival. They did not carry wealth. They carried memory. They carried food. Pizza arrived in the United States quietly. In immigrant neighborhoods, in small bakeries, in communities rebuilding life from scratch. At first, Americans did not care. Pizza was unfamiliar, too messy, too foreign. It stayed inside Italian communities for years. Then history intervened again. During World War II, American soldiers stationed in Italy encountered pizza for the first time. They tasted it on the streets during moments of exhaustion, relief, and boredom. They came home craving it. That craving changed everything. Post-war America had what pizza needed to scale: industrial ovens, refrigeration, marketing, distribution. Pizza expanded: more cheese, bigger slices, different dough, new styles. New York pizza became thin, foldable, and fast. Chicago deep dish became heavy, structured, and indulgent. Detroit style followed industry and steel pans. This was not betrayal, it was evolution. Pizza adapted because adaptation was already in its DNA. At this point, if deep, real food history like this is your thing, stories that go beyond recipes and into human behavior, this channel is built exactly for that. No myths, no shortcuts, just the real stories behind what we eat every day. Subscribing helps these long-form documentaries keep coming. Now let's finish the story. Pizza did not conquer the world because it was perfect. It conquered the world because it was flexible. It listened to culture, to economy, to technology. It could be cheap or expensive, street food or fine dining, shared or personal. Pizza is not powerful because of ingredients. It is powerful because of structure: bread, heat, toppings, simple, repeatable, adaptable. That structure allowed pizza to cross borders without explanation. It allowed cultures to project themselves onto it. It allowed people to feel ownership over it. Pizza is not eaten because it is necessary. It is eaten because it is familiar. It represents pause, comfort, belonging. Pizza is history you can hold, migration you can taste, poverty transformed into identity. Every slice carries centuries of human adaptation. And once you understand that, pizza stops being just food. But pizza's story does not stop at migration. Even in America, pizza's journey was far from easy. For decades, pizza was confined to ethnic neighborhoods outside Italian communities. It was seen as exotic, even suspicious. American diners served it occasionally, but it was niche. Mass marketing and national chains had yet to embrace it. That began in the 1950s and 1960s. Television, suburban expansion, and the post-war economic boom created the perfect conditions. Pizza chains started popping up in almost every city. Delivery became possible because of standardized recipes and ovens. Suddenly, pizza was not just food for immigrants, it was food for families, for teenagers, for workers coming home after a long shift. Advertising emphasized comfort, fun, and shared experience. It was sold as happiness on a plate. And here is what made pizza unique in the American system. It could be industrialized without losing identity. It could be mass-produced without losing essence. A pizza slice anywhere could taste familiar enough to feel like home. That's why pizza dominated globally, because familiarity builds trust. Trust builds habit. Habit builds culture. Pizza also became an emotional anchor. It was not just consumed for sustenance. It was consumed during celebrations, late nights, college dorms, movie nights, birthdays, sports events. It embedded itself into life patterns, not just menus. Yet, despite this dominance, pizza remained adaptive. Different regions invented their own spins. Spices were swapped, cheeses were substituted, toppings reflected local ingredients. Pineapple appeared, jalapenos appeared, anchovies remained controversial, and pizza still thrived. Flexibility has always been its secret weapon. This is a lesson for all food history. Rigid dishes often vanish, flexible ones survive, evolve, and conquer. Pizza conquered the world not just because it tasted good, but because it adapted, absorbed, and reflected human behavior. It is not fast food. It is slow history disguised as convenience. Every slice carries migration, labor, compromise, and memory. And that is why pizza continues to dominate, because it is not a meal. It is a story, a living story, a global story. If this narrative has changed how you look at pizza, how you think about what you eat, then do what keeps these stories alive. Like the video, share it with someone who eats pizza without knowing the story. Subscribe to uncover more stories hidden in everyday foods, because once you understand where food comes from, you never eat the same way again.